and welcome to Genealogy Gems podcast, episode number 270. In this episode, we're going to be visiting two pivotal states in the U.S. for genealogy research. And these states have played key roles in the development and the expansion of the United States of America, and we're going to explore a top online resource for each. First up is the state of Pennsylvania, officially known as the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It was founded in 1681 through a royal land grant to William Penn and established as a haven for religious and political tolerance. And since for over 300 years, the Port of Philadelphia was a major gateway for arriving immigrants, many family trees include people who passed through Pennsylvania. One of the best and most important resources for records of interest to genealogists is the State Library of Pennsylvania, and we'll be exploring it today with my interview with Kathy Hale, the Government Documents Librarian, and Amy Woytovich, the Genealogy Librarian at the State Library of Pennsylvania. Then we're going to head west to Ohio, which joined the Union back in 1803, and where many of our ancestors either settled or passed through on their way west. The Ohio Memory website is a rich source of historical materials that tell the story of this state, and potentially many American families as well. Jenny Solomon is the Ohio Memory Digital Services Manager, and you'll be hearing my conversation with her, where she explains the depth of the available materials and provides insight into how to best navigate the website. So let's get started. First up, we're heading to Pennsylvania. We're heading to Pennsylvania and the website of the State Library of Pennsylvania. And here to tell us more about what they have to offer you as the genealogist is the Government Documents Librarian, Kathy Hale, and Genealogy Librarian, Amy Woytovich. Hi, Kathy and Amy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
And Amy, I have to check because surnames matter. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
It's pronounced Woytovich, but I've heard it many, many ways.
Well, welcome to the show. And I'm excited to talk to you because, so many family trees connect with Pennsylvania at some point. And so you guys have a tremendous collection there that you can make available to people to help them when they're ready to dig into the Pennsylvania records. So, Kathy, I'd love to have you just kind of give us a brief overview of overall, what does the State Library of Pennsylvania have in its collections?
Well, I have a theory about the people doing their genealogy that everyone has come through Pennsylvania at least once. There's footprints from places in New England over to Ohio, going to the south. So many people put their footprints at the state of Pennsylvania, as the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The state library has been in existence since 1745, and we hardly throw anything away. So we are like a little Library of Congress for the state of Pennsylvania. But Amy is our genealogy librarian, so I'm going to let her tell a little bit more about what we have available electronically.
Excellent.
Like Kathy said, we started in 1745 and we've been collecting ever since. So physically we have over 30,000 volumes, 100,000 reels of microfilm, and 1 million pieces of microfiche. But we also have things that we've digitized and made available, that like county and family histories, local histories, small church histories from rural areas of Pennsylvania. We have city directories and passenger lists, regimental histories. Our regimental histories cover from the Revolution to the Spanish-American War. And we have pension lists available. And we also have the Pennsylvania Published Archives that have been digitized. They're a collection of military, government records, and like marriage records and immigration records from early Pennsylvania times, like the colonial time. We're also a federal depository library, which Kathy can tell you more about what we have in those collections.
Okay, the state library has been a federal depository. That means the government printing office deposits with libraries throughout the country different materials that the Government Publication Office gets from agencies, the legislature, and judiciary. We have been one since 1858. We're one of the oldest ones in the country, so that we have a collection that spans from that time period to the present. So I usually tell people that we are a blending of the old and the new. So if you need U.S. Census records from 1790, that was the first census that was taken, to 1940 have been released. There's a law, a U.S. law, that says that the individual names cannot be released until 72 years after the census has been taken. So the state library has on microfilm the 1790 to 1930. The 1940 census was released only electronically. This is the first census only to be put out there electronically by the National Archives. So you can go to the State Library's website, which is, you can just Google State Library of Pennsylvania, and we're one of the first things that come up, and go to our research guides to talk about those materials. We also have Pennsylvania documents, so we've been collecting those ever since the State Library has been in existence. So one of the things that people might find when they come to the State Library, so one of the things that I always thought was very interesting is that we have a report that was done for Pennsylvania of the 25th and 50th anniversaries of the battles of Gettysburg. So it had people who were at the Battle of Gettysburg and came back for the reunion. It also told you how much they ate and the sanitation and stuff like that. But it also gave a lot of names and some pictures of the materials. Also in our U.S. government documents is something called the serial set. That is something that are reports to the legislature from different agencies or institutions. One of the things that genealogists can use is the Daughters of the American Revolution every year had to give a report to Congress of the names that were approved by the Daughters of the American Revolution. So right now, you can go to many libraries and access those. You can access those through the federal government. If you need help, you can email the state library. And I have to put a plug in for that email, is ra-reflib@pa.gov. Okay, Amy, take it away from here.
One of the things I wanted to mention about our website is many of the things that Kathy mentioned. We have our research guides in our public section of our website, and that it'll take you to links to the National Archives, all the government documents, reports, and things like that.
That's kind of like a finding aid. It's funny, yeah. I was just talking about this in a recent episode, and that was a new concept to some of the researchers. I'd love to have you expand a little bit about how you, as a repository, create these so that people really can navigate your collections.
Well, we've separated them out by research area of interest. So there's some for vital records. There's some for Pennsylvania railroads and mines. We have cemetery records on there. We have a link to something called the Zemer Collection, which is a collection of cemetery records that a man named Jeremiah Zemer collected in the early 1900s. He went around to all of the cemeteries and recorded all of the information.
Only in Cumberland County.
Yeah, Cumberland County, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Are the finding aids or the research guides online so maybe they could do some prep work?
They could use them for prep work. Like I said, they have links to places like the Civil War Soldiers and Sailors database and the National Archives, so they could go and look and see where they can find the information that they're looking for.
Excellent. Now, Amy, you mentioned, of course, there's the website, and I believe you guys have a dedicated genealogy page. Can you give us a few kind of hints and tips for the best way to navigate, and maybe what you think we just shouldn't miss if we make one visit to the website?
Well, you shouldn't miss the genealogy section of it. It's a very large website because it includes all of the Office of Commonwealth Libraries. At the top of the page, there's 3 tabs, and you want to look at the tab that says For General Public. If you click on that, that will take you down to all of the genealogy resource guides. And we also have resource guides for other areas like law resources and government documents as well. But we have a separate section that you can click on that will take you to all our genealogy resource guides.
I noticed newspapers, and that always catches my eye, and I know it does the of other genealogists.
Right.
Can you give us a little more background on your newspaper collection?
Well, in normal times, we have a newspaper from every Pennsylvania counties, and there's 67 Pennsylvania counties on microfilm. Right now, we do have a lot of newspapers that have been digitized at our PA Photos and Documents collection. That's at the Power Library website. It's www.powerlibrary.org. There's a lot of older newspapers there that we've digitized. Kathy, did you want to add something?
If they go to the Power Library, they should be a Pennsylvanian in order to access these Pennsylvania documents and digital images. So they can go to that website that Amy talked about. On the right-hand side, they'll see PA digital docs and photos. They can go there and they can search over, I think it's like 65 different institutions have been putting their documents and photos into this repository since 1986. So it's not just the state library, but you might find things from Albright College, from Franklin and Marshall College. Many college yearbooks are available there, so you could just search for college yearbook, and every time that phrase comes up, a result would come up that they could look through various things. There's also different subject areas, and I believe genealogy is one of the subject areas on the PA Photos and Docs.
Did you say that you have to be a resident of Pennsylvania? And if by chance you're not, then is there a way to gain access?
Well, there's 2 sections to the Power Library. The electronic databases, you definitely do have to be a Pennsylvania resident. Kathy, did you want to speak about the digital documents?
The digital documents, you do not have to be a Pennsylvanian in order to access that material. But if you're going on to some of the other reference materials, you need to be a Pennsylvania resident with a library card in order to do that. But just the Pennsylvania digital documents, you do not need to be a Pennsylvanian to be able to access those things.
Great. So if you're outside of the state, then you might need to get in touch with a researcher that's local. We're talking about access, and of course there's certain things that are available online digitally now, but talk a little bit about interlibrary loan.
The state library does lend its newspaper microfilm throughout the country. So you can be from California, Oregon, North Dakota, Florida, Texas, and ask us for the newspaper microfilm. What the person would do is go to their local public library, go to their reference librarian or interlibrary loan area, and ask us for the specific title. We will lend up to 5 reels of microfilm for one particular request. We do that because otherwise people would ask for 30 reels of film and nobody else would be able to look at it. So we do limit it to 5 reels per request. When they send back those 5 reels, we will send another 5 reels. So they can keep doing this until they get to the specific that they need. If they do know a specific, say they go into newspapers.com and it shows you the title and the date and the page that it's on, a person could go to their interlibrary loan department or reference librarian and they can ask us for just one article or just one page. If they know what it's on, then what we can do is we will go to the microfilm, we will scan the obituary or article that they're interested in, and then we can send that electronically through interlibrary loan once we're back up and running with interlibrary loan.
Wonderful. Now, can you request individual copies? Could just a paper copy or an email copy?
What we would do is we would scan the copy of the newspaper article and send that electronically.
Okay, so you were saying interlibrary loan, but it's something that they can just keep, right, when they receive it?
Absolutely, because
Perfect.
that's what they would have to send back the microfilm, but if we send them a scan, that is theirs to keep.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, I couldn't let you go without asking you about your favorite collections. And of course, for many of us, that's just about the one that really taps into our family history. But maybe there's one that just grabs your attention. Amy, do you have a favorite collection there?
Personally, I like to go to the digital documents at the old atlases, the historical atlases that have been digitized, because they have a lot of illustrations and artwork in them. They'll have drawings of how the town looked at the time. So it not only gives you a good reference, a historical reference of how the town was, but the artwork in some of them is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I can't agree more. I love old maps. Oh my gosh.
I love to go through those.
Exactly. And Kathy, how about you?
Well, I'm really torn because I like everything.
Yeah.
But I am very partial to the map collection of the State Library. We have over 35,000 maps. One of the maps that was very instrumental for one researcher is we have a map of Gettysburg that shows the people that lived in the town in 1865. So you could see an actual person that lived there. We also had a young man that came. We have a collection called The 5 Generations from the Mayflower. And what that collection is they started with the first people who signed the Mayflower Compact, and then went 5 generations into it. So we could trace back for this young gentleman from him in 2018 all the way back. He was related to some of the founding Mayflower Pilgrims. So when he said that, he goes, "So what?" And I almost jumped through the ceiling and said, "What do you mean, so what?"
This was a student.
When you're talking about, he's like 10 years old.
Yes.
When they're talking about the Pilgrims at Thanksgiving, this is your people.
Exactly. Well, you mentioned the Gettysburg map. That's my people. The Leitner family was living in that town right about that time. So I am very interested about that. Okay, so that brings me, I get one extra question then, which is about particularly maps. Are any of them digitized? And how about just generally touch on the topic of usage? I know people are very interested. If I get a scan or a photocopy or a digitized material, can I use this in my own family history work and publications?
Usage depends on the copyright. It's hard to tell. The copyright really needs to be researched on its own. Kathy, do you have any thoughts about that?
If you're going to make money off of it, the best thing to do is to research the copyright as much as you can. Mm-hmm. So that if it was, say, digitized by somebody, but it was really copyrighted, like, say, a map by a map company, you want to make sure that you have the digital rights to put something up. Because otherwise, because of U.S. copyright law, if you put it into a digital form, that means you are changing the form of the original. Now, some things, depending on how old they are, is how far back are you going. Something from 1772, the original map may not be copyrighted anymore because it's been that long since it's been published. But something that may have been reprinted with the permission of, say, a historical society that actually owns the copyright to that map.
That makes sense, yes.
Yeah.
Many times the information is also in the digital information, the metadata that goes along with the digital image. Right. So like the Internet Archive, whatever institution digitized it, many times will tell you who owns the copyright or if it's fair use as well.
Right. Excellent. The National Archives will do that as well, or Library of Congress. If we have a minute, Amy, do you want to tell them about Chronicling America?
Oh, yes, please.
Chronicling America is a website through the Library of Congress, and they've digitized newspapers going back to 1789 to 1963 from states, not only Pennsylvania, but all over the country. So that's one of the best places that you can check to if you're looking for an older newspaper.
So you're partnering with them through the National Endowment, and so your digitized newspapers might be ending up over at Chronicling America then.
That's correct.
There are some Pennsylvania newspapers there, yes.
Right.
Excellent.
We worked with Penn State University since between Penn State University and the State Library, we hold the largest newspaper collections for Pennsylvania, we feel, in the world.
Wow, what an amazing resource. Do you tend to partner with some of the big genealogy companies like Ancestry and MyHeritage in terms of record collections?
We tend not to, because we feel that the information should be free and available. If you go through Ancestry or newspapers.com or some other of the big companies, they want you to pay for that material. And we feel it should be free and available, just like it is at the library.
Well, that sounds wonderful to every genealogist listening. Well, an amazing collection and resource. Ladies, thank you so much for sharing the treasures there at the State Library of Pennsylvania. We appreciate it.
Okay, think of Amy and I as your personal librarians.
Oh, we love that.
So make sure that you send questions to us, because that's what we're here for.
Thank you for that reminder. I have been trying to encourage people. You know, in the past, we've been shy and we just get used to things being online. But you guys are an amazing resource, and you know that collection better than anybody. So perfect.
We're here to help everyone. So
That's right.
Wonderful. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Stay right there. We've got more coming, and we're going to be heading to Ohio in just a moment. Today's episode is sponsored by MyHeritage, a global discovery platform enjoyed by 110 million people worldwide. MyHeritage has it all and offers a full-service experience that bridges your past, present, and future. MyHeritage has developed powerful genealogy tools to enrich your family tree and take your research to the next level. Receive automatic matches to family trees of fellow MyHeritage users and historical records, which provide new details that you can add to your tree. Explore 12 billion historical records to uncover fascinating new insights about your ancestors. Add new information to your family tree in one click. Check your tree for inaccuracies, colorize your black and white photos, and connect with relatives around the globe. MyHeritage makes it all possible and puts the discoveries at your fingertips. I've been colorizing some of my own personal family photos, and not only are they beautiful, but in many of the photos, it's actually been revealing more details so I can see more of my family history. Growing your family tree is easier than ever before with MyHeritage. The discoveries are out there and waiting to be made. Visit myheritage.com and try it today. That's myheritage.com. Are you in search of a free facility to help you take your family history research to the next level? Well, consider planning a trip to one of my favorite places, the Genealogy Center at Allen County Public Library. It's located in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the Genealogy Center is the second largest center in the nation for genealogy and one of the best places to research family histories due to its really extensive collection and services. The Genealogy Center has more than 1 million physical items, and they've got trained genealogists who work there who all have unique specialties, and they're available to help you find success for free. Use the services and materials at the Genealogy Center in Fort Wayne, Indiana to take your family history research to that next level. Plan your trip or book an appointment at visitfortwayne.com/genealogy. That's visitfortwayne.com/genealogy. It's time to head to Ohio and my conversation with Jenny Solomon of Ohio Memory. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, because so many of our ancestors, I think at some point, passed through Ohio. And of course, that makes the Ohio Memory website just a really important resource for many, many people. So tell us, first and foremost, who is behind Ohio Memory?
Ohio Memory is the collaborative digital library program of the Ohio History Connection and the State Library of Ohio. It was actually established in 2000, so we're celebrating 20 years this year. So it's nice to get an award in a year that was already exciting and significant for us. Initially, it was established as a bicentennial project. They wanted a way to capture some of Ohio's history. The Ohio we know today turned 200 in 2003. So they wanted to spend some time seeing how we could capture Ohio's history and share it more broadly. So that's how it started. We basically, not me specifically, but we worked with institutions around the state to, they picked some of their favorite items in their collections. We helped them digitize them and we put them online. They're still there today in the Ohio Memory collection on Ohio Memory, which is a little bit confusing, but that's how it started. It was just a online scrapbook was the vision. And then it was, we got some grant funding through couple of different state organizations to support that, and it was so successful that we continued to do work on the project after that initial round of funding with a little bit more funding from some other folks, and then we were able to expand it even further. Initial submission, we had about 260 institutions contribute over 13,000 different items.
Wow. Now, you mentioned the institutions that are involved. Am I correct that this is primarily library driven?
Yes, it's mostly libraries, but we certainly have contributions from all different types of organizations. So we have a lot of historical societies who participate. Public libraries are probably our biggest participant, but we have university libraries. We have government institutions, special libraries, religious archives. Particularly if you're looking at the early phases of the program of the project, we have great diversity in the organization types that were represented. So we also have, I think, images from Columbus Zoo, from botanical gardens, lots of different things represented there.
Everything Ohio.
Yeah.
So for the genealogist who will be coming to ohiomemory.org, they'll be excited to know what do you have and kind of how is it organized on the website? What should they be looking for?
So in terms of types of materials, we have coverage of early, prehistory through present day. So we have a lot of early statehood. We have representation of our American Indian predecessors. We have Civil War coverage, World War I, pretty much any big event you can think of in Ohio, any aspect of Ohio history, we have some sort of coverage on. We have all 88 counties are represented. There are photographs, we have maps, we have drawings, paintings, manuscripts and journals. We have archaeological artifacts, natural history specimens, historical objects. We have oral histories, so both audio and video there, and we have lots of newspapers and we have lots of yearbooks. And then through primarily the state library's contribution, we have a lot of present day government records as well, because they are capturing some of the websites and currently produced materials as well as historical. So it's kind of more of what don't we have, and certainly there are things that we're missing, and every year we're working to add more. Our partners are, we are, to add more to make sure that the story is as inclusive as it can be given the resources that we have available.
And are these digital, items, or are we going to run into lots of, in a sense, what are catalog listings, but not necessarily available to view on the website? What's the nature of the items?
Everything should be the full digital version of that item. So if we're looking at the newspaper, it's the full newspaper issue, keyword searchable, same thing with other printed materials. We do sometimes connect back to other catalog records, but if you're going to Ohio Memory, you're going to see the thing that you're looking for as close of a representation as we can get to the real thing using digital technology.
Fantastic. And you said they're searchable. And of course, when you go to the homepage, first and foremost, you do see the search box. So do you have any kind of tips and recommendations for us to get the most out of using that?
Yes. So a big tip for Ohio Memory is that when you're doing a search, it's not only searching your keyword, full text search, optical character recognition, OCR data, but also the metadata that every partner, including the Ohio History Connection, has added to the items to describe them so people can find them. Obviously, if you're looking at a photograph, there aren't going to be words you can search on, so we have to rely on our own descriptions of them to find those materials. So it's important to pick a keyword that's relevant to your search, and also a keyword that is accurate to the time period you're searching as well, because depending on what the nature of the material is, you might have to look at things a little bit differently, particularly in newspapers. Words change over time, location names change over time. So that's something that we're trying to capture, or we are capturing history as it happened, but also trying to make sure that it's connected to the history of today so people can figure out those changes. When you're on the homepage, probably the biggest tip, if you're mostly looking for visual items, which I think is where a lot of people like to start, because photographs are they're very exciting to see, all the things that have been captured over the years. On the main page, there's a little box that you can click that says exclude full text sources. So when you do your search, and you do a search for dog or whatever, you'll just get pictures and photographs back and manuscript materials, and not necessarily get bogged down with thousands of pages of newspaper results, which I personally love because I help with our newspaper digitization program the most, but I know other people can get a little overwhelmed by it. So that's one good tip to keep in mind, is restricting your format to what you want to do right from the homepage.
Oh, that's a great suggestion. You mentioned the newspapers, and of course, we think of Chronicling America at the Library of Congress as a place to go to newspapers. Mm-hmm. Will we find the same collections, or will we find some unique items at Ohio Memory?
Ohio Memory and Chronicling America collections do not overlap. So we have contributed quite a bit of content to Chronicling America over the years, and we've focused our Ohio Memory contributions on different titles and different time periods. So you'll find a lot deeper runs of papers on Ohio Memory. You'll find more recent papers. So we have some of our partners on the project have digitized their local newspapers up through 2019 and continue to add more content every year. And then we also have some really early significant newspapers for Ohio, like the Ohio State Journal, which was the paper of record for Ohio during the 19th century. So that we had that coverage from like 1830 through 1875. So a really important time period of Ohio's growth and the Civil War. And then we also worked with another library to digitize one of the earlier papers in Ohio, the Lebanon Western Star, which is in Southwest Ohio near Cincinnati and Kings Island, if anyone knows where that is. Great amusement park outside there. But that also covers some really great early Ohio history from a more rural area in our state. So there is not any overlap, but they're all kind of part of the same story, building the same collection. And so I think at last count, we have hit about 1 million pages between those two websites of digitized newspaper content.
Well, that's exciting that there isn't the overlap and that there's that kind of a volume. And you mentioned another exciting collection, I think, that interests people a lot, which is yearbooks. Tell us a little bit about that.
So a lot of our partners, particularly those public libraries that we work with, have access to yearbook collections through, their partnerships with local schools. And that's just one of the things that public libraries seem to gravitate toward. And so a lot of them have worked to digitize their materials and put them on Ohio Memory. Some of them go back pretty early. Some of them are more recent. Generally, you're not going to get anything past kind of the mid-20aughts just because of privacy issues for minors. But there's definitely a lot of good content from our Northwest Ohio partners and some Northeast Ohio partners with yearbooks, and then some kind of student history from Southwest Ohio as well with a couple universities we have participating in the program down there. So I think there's yearbooks and sort of like images of students that aren't necessarily yearbooks, but just student pictures, that kind of thing.
Oh, fantastic. Now, the big question, is it all free? Or are there some things that are pay subscription? You'll get the answer to that question and more right after this. Today's episode is sponsored by newspapers.com. It's the largest online newspaper archive. Find your ancestors in the paper with a quick search on newspapers.com. Your family didn't need to be famous to appear in the papers. Start with obituaries, marriage announcements, and birth announcements, and then go beyond to explore the local news, society pages, classified ads, photos, and much more. Maybe you'll find a letter to the editor written by your grandmother, or a photo of your grandpa's high school sports team. You never know what you'll find until you look. Search through more than 760 million newspaper pages from across the US, UK, Canada, and beyond in just seconds. Their easy-to-use search feature lets you filter your results by date, location, a specific paper, and more. Find something interesting? The newspapers.com clipping tool makes it a snap to share it with family and friends. You can even save it directly to your ancestry tree. For listeners of this podcast, newspapers.com is offering new subscribers 20% off a Publisher Extra subscription so that you can start exploring today. Just use the code GenealogyGems at checkout. All together as one word, Genealogy Gems at checkout at newspapers.com. The big question, is it all free, or are there some things that are pay subscription?
The whole thing is free. Everything on Ohio Memory is free. We used to have one collection that was behind a paywall, but a couple years ago we opened that up. That was the Underground Railroad Wilbur H. Siebert collection, which has a lot of great information about Underground Railroad activities in Ohio and beyond. And it's a really strong resource for people looking at research methods of the era where this was made, and also kind of trying to dive into some of these stories of how the Underground Railroad actually operated. And some of these stories were like kind of first and second hand, but it's still very helpful to know. But just kept it open because we really want people to have access to those resources. So everything on Ohio Memory is free.
Well, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Wow, what an amazing resource. Anything I didn't ask you about that you feel like our genealogy listening audience would be excited to hear about?
Gosh, I mean, there's just so much in Ohio Memory that I really just encourage people to just check it out and see what they can find. You may not find things specific to your family history, but sometimes we look at it as kind of coloring in those black and white photos with just getting more context around the community that your families were in and the world they were living in. So even if it's not a story about like your uncle who did something cool at this time, it could be you're like getting a greater understanding of what life was like back then. And we've put together some help resources on our website. We have a few videos and some just like an FAQ and some like kind of search guides to help people really learn how to dive in, because it is Google-like, but sometimes if you're really trying to do more complicated searches or trying to find something very specific, it's nice to have those tips on hand. So we're trying to make sure that information is available for our users so that they can do that as much as they can on their own, but also we're available via email to help too.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's a tremendous resource. We're very fortunate that you guys have it. What have you got coming in the future? Is there an ongoing digitization process or other things in the works?
Yeah, so the way the program works now is the Ohio History Connection and the State Library of Ohio continually digitize and add materials to Ohio Memory. So every year, Ohio History Connection staff look at our collecting initiatives and our strategic goals and try to figure out what collections we have in our archives that we could digitize and expose to the public. We focused on Harding, President Harding, since it's the 100th anniversary of his election. And so we have a Warren G. Harding collection online that we're adding more and more content to regularly, kind of documenting his campaign and the other materials we already had online. So we continually add content. And then our partners, we have about 40 active partners around the state who are also choosing from their own collections of materials to digitize. So Wood County up in Northwest Ohio has been celebrating their bicentennial, I believe, around now. So they've been adding content. Mount St. Joseph University and the Sisters of Charity in the Cincinnati area have also been celebrating an anniversary within the last year or two. So they've been adding a lot of content, documenting the history of their communities and their residents. And so it's just every month new things are added. And we get new partners every year, and it's really exciting to see it expand and let people be able to choose what they want to represent their community. And we love being able to support that and give them an outlet to do that. Since digitization isn't cheap and it isn't super easy, we're trying to help lower those barriers as much as we can so that they can share their information and other people can get to it.
That's great. And a final question, many genealogists will be looking to kind of help supplement their own family stories. And I think that that's where a website like yours comes in so handy, because it's going to have some of the greater, wider context. What are some of the parameters they should keep in mind around usage and copyright?
Oh, great question. So generally speaking, most of the materials on Ohio Memory are available for educational use without needing extra permission. So if you're a family historian and you are wanting to put a picture in a presentation for your family, you just want to keep it as part of your own research records, that's fine. There isn't any sort of monitoring for that. And if you want to post something on Facebook or another social media account, we just ask that you link back to us so people who look at it know where they can find whatever you found, and also find out where they can get more just like it if they're interested in it. But anything beyond that, like if you had a formal publication and basically in kind of formal publication, you would need to reach out to us to go through our rights and reproduction system. And there are things that are in public domain on Ohio Memory, but there are plenty of things that are not in public domain. It's really a mixed bag of material. So it all requires a little bit of digging into, but I would say in most cases for genealogists, there aren't a lot of barriers for them accessing the content and reusing it in a way that's standard for genealogists for kind of local presentations and sharing with family and that sort of thing.
Well, it's a wonderful resource. It's ohiomemory.org. And you've been hearing from Jenny Solomon, who is the Digital Services Manager. Thank you so much, Jenny. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me for Genealogy Gems podcast episode number 270. I hope you enjoyed these two conversations. Both of these sites are tremendous resources, and I've got all the resources for you over at the show notes page. So for every podcast episode, we have a corresponding web page. It's called our show notes page. You can find it at genealogygems.com. Just look under podcast, and they're all there in numerical order, starting with the most current. And as of today, that is this episode. It's 270. So there you're going to find links and details to all the information. And if you would like to share your ideas for upcoming episodes, we always love to make sure that we are talking about the things that matter most to you in your genealogy research. Drop me a line at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. And if you really want to dig in and get the full gamut of everything we have available for you at Genealogy Gems, consider becoming a premium member. There are some big benefits. One of them is that you'll notice there are ads on our show notes page. That kind of helps make our free content available to everybody. But we have downloadable show notes handouts and sometimes special worksheets. These are ad-free PDFs. Being a PDF, you can download it. It's really searchable, easy to use as your ongoing reference guide. And we have those available for all of our podcast episodes, whether it is the free show, which is this show, or it is our premium podcast, which is available exclusively to premium members. So not only do you get those show notes, but you get that special podcast series. And there is a large archive, kind of a body of work. We've been doing this show for nearly 17 years. So there's lots of episodes to choose from, just the topics you need. And of course, every month we do a live 11s with Lisa episode. That's a full length, pretty much 45 minutes to 1 hour show where we get together live so we can interact with premium members. And of course, then it is available as a video replay as well. So those monthly shows are just a wonderful way to get our whole Genealogy Gems family together and really dig into the topics that matter most to you. And of course, over at the Genealogy Gems YouTube channel, every week you will find new videos there, which again, premium members will have those exclusive downloadable show notes available for. So lots going on here, all designed to help you have great success in finding more out about your family history. And finally, take a moment and check out our wonderful sponsors. We've really had some terrific organizations working with us, helping bring this free content to you. And they've got some great stuff to offer. We talked about Visit Fort Wayne. That is their Visitors Bureau. And they are really the gateway, if you will, to the Genealogy Center at the Allen County Public Library. We've talked about that on our YouTube channel and here on the podcast. And the Allen County Public Library has really the second or third largest genealogy library in the country. So it is not to be missed. And Visit Fort Wayne can help you with all of that. We also heard from newspapers.com, and they've made that special 20% discount available to you off their Publisher Extra subscription. The coupon code for that was Genealogy Gems. All together, use that over there. Gosh, I've been having some amazing success for my own research over at newspapers.com, and their collection is really growing quickly. And not only that, but a lot of the tools that they make available on the website to help you dig into it, that has been improving quite a bit this year as well. So there's just always something new to discover. And finally, of course, our longtime sponsor, MyHeritage, they have a free trial for you. And if you haven't really used MyHeritage before, this is really a terrific opportunity. If nothing else, you're going to have a couple of weeks to really be able to get in there and dig around and find tremendous records. What they really have going for them that is so unique and special is the amazing technology behind their search engine. Boy, if they have one of your family members in their records, that search engine is going to find them, and it is just tremendous. So check out their search, but also, oh my gosh, the amazing photo tools over there. Whether you want to enhance your pictures, you want to colorize them, oh my gosh, you can animate them. There's a lot you can do, and that kind of stuff is really could be kind of fun here as the holidays are approaching, and we're trying to find something maybe unique to share at the family gathering or just send out as an invite or something for the New Year's. Oh my gosh, why not make it family history oriented? And they've got all kinds of terrific tools to help you create something very special that maybe your family's never seen before with the old family photos that you have in your collection. So a tremendous resource. That's myheritage.com. And we always appreciate it when you use the links that we have in our show notes on the website, because that kind of helps let them know that you heard about them from us. And we appreciate that. Have a fabulous time finishing out your 2022 year with family history and genealogy gems. Thank you so much for listening, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.